Imagine you're on a luxurious Mediterranean cruise. It's 1985, the drinks are flowing, and the disco ball is spinning. Life is in peak vacation mode. Then suddenly, armed terrorists storm the ship, take everyone on board hostage, and throw a disabled man in a wheelchair overboard. No, this isn't a rejected Tom Clancy novel. This actually happened. This is the hijacking of the Achille Lauro, an Italian cruise ship that became the stage for a terrorist takeover, a cascade of political failures, and one of the most awkward international standoffs in modern history. Let's rewind to the mid-1980s. Big hair, Cold War tension, and international terrorism on the rise. The Achille Lauro was your classic European cruise ship. It was built in the 1940s, revamped in the 60s, and somehow it was still afloat in the 1980s. This was a floating relic with the grandeur of your aunt's basement with nautical wallpaper. On October 7, 1985, the ship departed from Alexandria, Egypt, en route to ports across the Mediterranean. On board, there was over 400 passengers and crew, blissfully unaware that 4 men posing as tourists had entirely other plans. Who were these terrorists? The hijackers were members of the Palestine Liberation Front, a radical faction that thought, why pass out flyers when you can hijack a cruise ship? Their leader, Abu Abbas, wasn't even on board. He was the mastermind behind the scenes, pulling the strings like some budget Bond villain. These 4 guys boarded in Egypt disguised as tourists. They were armed with rifles, grenades, and probably had zero understanding of maritime safety regulations. Their plan? Originally to attack Israel. But when that fell apart faster than their disguises, they pivoted. Because what's a little hostage situation among vacationers? The hijacking. The terrorists revealed themselves on October 7th, mid-voyage. They burst out of their cabins, armed to the teeth, screaming at passengers in Arabic, and took over the ship in minutes. Passengers were herded into lounges. Crew members were forced to obey. Everyone was terrified, confused, and probably very seasick. And what did these terrorists demand? That Israel release 50 Palestinian prisoners. Their backup plan? Apparently none. It was a mess. The crew had no idea what to do. The ship's captain tried to negotiate while not wetting himself. Meanwhile, world governments scrambled to figure out how to respond without accidentally triggering World War III. Now here's where things turn tragic. One of the passengers was Leon Klinghoffer, a 69-year-old American tourist who used a wheelchair. He and his wife were just trying to enjoy their retirement cruise. But to the hijackers, he became a target. After a standoff with no concessions, they shot Klinghoffer in the head and chest, then rolled him in his wheelchair off the deck into the Mediterranean. It was a senseless, brutal act that shocked the world. And it turned public opinion from maybe they're freedom fighters to, okay, these guys are just murderers. At this point, Egypt, Italy, and the US were in full-blown panic mode. The hijackers forced the ship to dock in Syria, but Syria refused as if to say, no, you can't park your terror cruise here. So the Achille Lauro wandered the sea like a nautical ghost, full of scared hostages and desperate demands. Eventually, the terrorists negotiated safe passage in exchange for releasing the hostages, and believe it or not, Egypt agreed. They gave the hijackers a plane, even after they killed a US citizen. Diplomacy in the 80s was basically a game of, how fast can we sweep this under the rug? But the US wasn't having it. President Reagan and his team found out about the plane, and the response was a hard pass. American fighter jets intercepted the Egypt Air flight carrying the terrorists and forced it to land at a NATO base in Sicily. It was the ultimate midair, not so fast. Cue international drama. Italy, caught completely off guard, wasn't thrilled that the US had rerouted a plane in its airspace. The Americans wanted to arrest Abu Abbas, who was also on the plane. Italy, however, let him go, citing not enough evidence, which is international speak for, we don't want to get involved. The hijackers were eventually tried and imprisoned in Italy, though some of them didn't stay locked up for long. Abu Abbas lived freely in the Middle East until 2003, when he was finally captured by US forces in Iraq, almost 2 decades later, because justice, like this cruise, was extremely delayed. The Achille Lauro itself continued operating for years. Yes, years. before it caught fire and sank off the coast of Somalia in 1994. Honestly, that ship had been through enough. Leon Klinghoffer's murder sparked international outrage and became a symbol of how terrorism could touch even the most unlikely of places. His story was later adapted into an opera. Yes, an opera, because this entire situation somehow gets even more bizarre the deeper you go. If you like this deep dive into one of the strangest terror plots of the 20th century, hit that subscribe button. We've got more bizarre history, international messes, and wait, that really happened? Stories coming your way.